Hello, I'm Tiffany Trader, Managing Editor of HPCwire, and joining me are two of the people running this year's SC Supercomputing Conference. We have General Chair Bronis Supinski, who is CTO for Livermore Computing at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, and also Vice Chair Jeff Hollingsworth, who is Vice President and Chief Information Officer at the University of Maryland. Hello and welcome.
Hello.
Hi. So SC21 is back with an on-site event being held in St. Louis, Missouri, the week of November 14th, after going all virtual last year, like pretty much all other events on account of the pandemic. So wanted to get you both on here to talk a little bit give us a little preview for the show this year. And let's start off with just a little bit about your background. Just tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in HPC. And we can start with you, Bronis.
Well, so I started at Livermore in '98. I was a graduate student at the University of Virginia, and I did a dissertation on parallel computing, but not really supercomputing exactly. But then I got a job at Livermore, and I've been working in supercomputing ever since. So, did a lot of research for a long time, and then I moved over to the kind of production side of the house, as it were. I still do research, but
yeah,
much more focused on putting systems on the floor nowadays.
What are a couple of your favorite things or research focuses in HPC parallel computing?
Well, I've done a lot of work in like performance analysis tools, correctness tools, but probably the thing I'm most proud of that I've done is I've really shaped the way OpenMP works. I've been the chair of the OpenMP language committee for about 10 years now or something like that. I don't know, I lose track,
Yep.
And in the time that I've been leading it, we've gone from very much a small niche language, pretty much just for loop-based parallelization, to really being the on-node parallelization mechanism for large-scale systems. So.
Yep. And Jeff, how about you? How did you get started in HPC?
I got started in HPC back when I was a graduate student, and my thesis was in tools for parallel computing, and first attended SC back in 1992 in Minneapolis, and have continued in the HPC community. Came from, after graduate school, I went to a faculty position here at the University of Maryland, and for 20 years did research in high performance computing in the tools and measurement area, and also did a lot of work in auto tuning of parallel programs, both for HPC and some non-HPC applications. And then about 4 years ago, moved into administration and became Vice President of IT and Chief Information Officer here at the university.
And
so in some ways, Jeff and I both have boring employment histories. We went to grad school and then went to work for the same place for the rest of our careers.
Great shot.
I was out of school for 6 years before I went to grad school, but that's another story.
Oh, okay. We'll talk about that another time. And Jeff, how did you get involved with the SC committee?
I got involved with the SC committee. I think it started out the way most young researchers do. I was a member of the Tech Papers Committee, invited to help review papers, and then throughout the years started taking on volunteer roles. I remember, I think back in maybe SC99 was the first time I had got involved in the committee, and took a number of roles from tech program to finance chair, and then became general chair for SC12, which was our first trip to Salt Lake City.
Yeah, and what stands out for you from that show?
I think there were two things. One was that was in the wake of the GSA scandal about travel, and the federal government had some severe restrictions on travel. In some ways, it was a deja vu for what we're experiencing this year. And so people were asking, well, why do you really need to go to a conference? And so I spent a lot of time explaining why in-person meetings really are important to scientific research.
Yeah. Yeah. And Bronis, how did you get involved with SC?
Well, so as soon as I started working at Livermore, basically, so I started there late July, and soon thereafter was like told, oh, you should go to this conference. So I went in '98 was the first time.
Yeah.
But and over time, I got involved in, like Jeff, in the Tech Papers Committee, and probably on some of the other ones in tech program, like posters or something like that. I don't remember exactly.
Where was it in '98?
Orlando.
Orlando, yeah.
Yeah. So, we went to Universal Studios, Florida, if I remember correctly. It's been a long time.
Yes.
Fades into the distant past.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then I think it was it 2011 was the year Bill Kramer was chair?
2011. No, that was Scott. 2006 was Bill Kramer in St. Louis. The first one in Seattle was Bill Kramer, I think.
Oh no, it's a different one. I'm sorry. I could look it up, but I don't know, 2010, 2011, sometime like that. I was like the first archives chair, and we were trying to get better capture of more of the material, which is kind of interesting, because I feel like one of the things that we're achieving this year is a lot of the things that we sort of set out trying to do back then when I had that role. So.
And so now SC21 is being held as an on-site event in St. Louis, Missouri. It's the first time in that city. And then there's also going to be a remote virtual experience to that as well. Bronis, can you give us a walkthrough of what's included? I know people are wanting this. It's on the site, but I think people still want to hear more about this. What's included with the two registration categories?
In person, it's not hugely different. We've added some things. There's some things that because of the circumstances we're not doing this year, but it's a lot of the things that people know and love about supercomputing in person. In addition, if you register and come and attend in person, you get automatically get the virtual registration as well. So an in-person tech program registration gets you full remote on-demand access, and if you wanted to live stream something, I suppose you could do that. We're kind of wondering if some people are going to be sitting there in one talk, live streaming another talk. I can't listen to two things at once.
Right.
I have video cons with somebody that does that. He's on 2 different video cons. I don't know how he does it. But so for the remote attendees, most of the content will be available remotely. The in-person tutorials will not be available remotely, but most everything else will. We'll have 9 different rooms that are being live streamed, so with high quality video feeds, the audio pipe right off of the soundboard into the audio feed. So you'll be able to hear the talks, watch the slides as speakers are presenting them, really see what's going on, and whether you're in person or remote, we'll be using the virtual hub, the SC21 hub, for all Q&A. So one thing that's very different about the in-person experience is that there won't be any mic stands. There won't be any standing mics in the aisles. That way we don't have to worry about cleaning them or anybody, people crowding each other waiting for the microphone, that kind of thing. We also just think that it's generally more inclusive. Somebody doesn't get up and spend 5 minutes asking one question, and people who are maybe less familiar with the speaker are intimidated, not really ready to get up and ask a question, or maybe they have a better question. And so they can now submit it through the virtual platform, and then there's support for upvoting the questions. And so basically the session moderator will take those questions and choose which one to ask.
We had seen some of those tools introduced even before the pandemic, and I think they work pretty well and have some nice options like for polling and things like that too.
Yeah, well, and what we're feeling is that so SC had started doing it before the pandemic, but the big difference is now it's the only way to ask a question, because a lot of times session chairs would forget that it even was there, and now if they forget that it's there, then there aren't any questions.
Yeah. Do you think that or will, in some cases, will a speaker be live streamed in to an on-site session?
Yeah, well, so in the future, I would definitely want all speakers to be in attendance, and a very large percentage of our speakers are going to be in attendance. We're working hard to get one of our award winners to be able to attend from Australia. We think we've solved that problem. I mean, at this point, it's clear he'll be allowed to come in. It's a matter of getting his logistics worked out, and we're pretty confident that'll happen. But obviously, some speakers, either because of their own analysis of the risk that being in a large conference setting would pose to them. I mean, I think it's going to be safe, but it kind of depends on your personal situation, right? So some people are like speakers from China, frankly, it wasn't clear they would be allowed in. I guess they would be allowed in now, but by when they would have needed to apply for visas and stuff. So we would expect that there are speakers who had to speak remotely. What we're doing is all of them have been asked to record their talks ahead of time, and that's basically used as a backup, that they'll be allowed, if they want to actually present in real time. But if something goes wrong with their connection, then we have a video that we can use to go ahead and play their talk, and it won't be dropped from the program.
And what are the COVID protocols that you have in place?
So we're requiring everybody to be fully vaccinated. And we're using the Clear app to validate the U.S. attendees, domestic attendees have been fully vaccinated. For international attendees, we'll take basically the proof that they have from their local place. And when you come in, you have to show your validation, and even to get into the convention center, go to the registration desk, get your ID, and then that'll serve as your proof of validation for the rest of the week.
Your badge.
Exactly.
Yep. And then in addition, St. Louis has an indoor mask mandate in effect. So I don't know where I put it, but so right now I'm actually in St. Louis as we're speaking. I'm right across the street from the convention center, and so people will be expected to be masked. At this point, it's getting pretty close to the conference. I don't think there's any real chance that St. Louis would repeal that mask mandate, but even if they did, we're still going to require masking inside the convention center. Mm-hmm. We're acquiring KN95 masks that we'll distribute to registrants. So when you pick up your badge, we'll also hand you a KN95 mask. That's because it's the most effective mask that you can wear, but you can wear whatever mask you want. We're not going to sit there and say, no, you've got the wrong kind of mask, but we do want people to be wearing masks except when they're eating or drinking.
One other thing I wanted to mention is on food and beverage, we're working with the convention center to make sure that every break and meal opportunity has an opportunity for prepackaged sealed food and beverage for those who don't feel comfortable having the normal style food and beverage distributed. St. Louis is allowing with some additional safety protocols, other kinds of food distribution. So attendees will be able to choose at each event whatever, but we'll have food and beverage offers that come completely sealed if that's what people are most comfortable with. The other thing I did want to remind everyone is we will be having many of the normal social events with appropriate precautions like I just talked about. We'll have the opening gala on the exhibit hall floor on Monday night, and the tech program party on Thursday is going to be at the City Museum, a truly amazing and unique facility in the city of St. Louis. So with proper
10-story
safety
slide.
protocols,
What's up,
we'll still
Bronis?
have social opportunities in addition to the technical meetings. I want to make sure everyone knows that.
Yeah, and both of those events will have servers, so there will be food, but you won't go and just grab it yourself. You'll have to be served.
All right. So tell us a little bit about what the experience was like this year. Organizing this event with all the uncertainties, lack of visibility around the pandemic. And then I get the sense that it's likely challenging in some ways that not everybody would fully appreciate. With all the moving parts and venue commitments and all those things. You want to start, Bronis?
Well, I don't know. It's been an experience. So I mean, there's a lot of work involved in organizing the conference in any year, but it's been constantly changing. We intentionally deferred making a lot of decisions because we needed to have a clearer picture of what things would be like. We started to feel that we were getting a pretty good picture of what things would be like in June-ish. Things were starting to look pretty good. We had, by the time June came around, usually we have a big meeting in June, which we actually had decided to take fully virtual because it wasn't clear when we had to make the decision in April what it would be like. So we had to do that all offline. But by June, it was like pretty clear we could come and meet in August, and things were looking pretty good. We're making a bunch of decisions. And then by August, we got a bunch of people, we had the Delta variant and people getting concerned. We actually were here meeting in the beginning of August, and people were starting to think, oh no, it's really bad. Not that it hasn't been kind of significant, but frankly, we were looking at that feeling like if we put the right protocols in place, there's no reason by November we shouldn't be in a position where we could safely hold a meeting. They've had several events over at the convention center this week. A couple weeks ago when we were here, they had a GeoInt conference. It had about 3,800, 4,000 people at it. We're expecting maybe not quite that many, or hopefully maybe that many. It would be great if we had that many. It's clear we can safely have that many people in this convention center and have that meeting. But anyway, so things have been kind of constant changing, dealing with things at the last minute. And now we have, some people are choosing not to travel because of whatever their personal situation is, and that I totally understand. But then we have other people that are very interested in coming and working on setting up SciNet, or working on getting the conference, other aspects of the conference together, or even just attending, and they're being told by people that like their employers that no, you may not go, which I find kind of frustrating. As an adult, I feel like I'm capable of making that decision for myself. But what are you going to do?
The other challenge, of course, is I think you noted, this is the first time the conference has come to St. Louis, and there's always extra work when SC comes to town for the first time in learning to work with the convention center. We have unique things like SciNet, which are quite challenging sometimes for the convention center to understand all those needs. So a new city combined with the pandemic did lead to a lot more complexities in planning, and then a lot more things that had to be taken care of. But I'm confident we've gotten all the details to fit together, just maybe not as early as some of the members of the committee like to see things planned out months and months in advance.
And I'm sure you
Yeah.
made you made a lot of contingency or did a lot of contingency planning along the way.
Yeah, so actually early on, I introduced the concept of having a risk register into the conference. It's the first year that we've actually had that management approach, which is kind of shocking to me, but okay.
Yeah.
I can't imagine citing a large system without a risk register. And okay, the conference is kind of a different thing, but there's a lot of similarities.
Right. So
anyway, yeah, but on the other hand, as far as the city goes, the city has been great. And the convention center staff has been great. We had to add additional fiber connections into the convention center in order to handle the networking, provide the level of networking service that the conference expects and needs. And we got that done later than we would have liked, and that was slowed down by the pandemic, but it was done in time. And I'm actually here because we have SciNet staging going on. Started last week, we'll finish up this week, and it was quite pleasing to be in the team meeting this morning. And here it's the smoothest that it's ever gone by many of the people who've been involved in SciNet for a long time by their observations. The convention center has been very good to work with. So we're very happy with it all.
great. Yeah. So been talking about SciNet. SciNet's back this year after taking a hiatus year last year. Billed as the most powerful and advanced network on Earth, brought together by volunteers. So that's great to hear it's going well.
It'll be the most powerful and advanced network since the start of the pandemic.
All right, you heard it here. Jeff, did you want to jump in with something?
Well, it's always good to see the excitement of the SciNet team. I know they're excited. We're having some new Wi-Fi gear. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to mention the vendor yet, but it's some new gear from a new vendor that we're very excited about showcasing this year. I'll let Lance tell the crowd about that when the time's right. And one other interesting thing you'll notice is normally when you go to the SciNet and you see the show floor, you see all the fiber hanging down from the ceiling. You won't actually see that this year because a unique feature of the St. Louis Convention Center is there are conduits under the floor and a tunnel system. And so all the fiber is being brought up, hidden from the crowd under the floor and under the carpets. And so
how appropriate is that?
Yes. So so people walk in and say, where, people who are into networking, like, where are all the fibers? Yeah. Don't worry, they're all there.
Raised floor, just like at home.
It's like a giant raised floor, exactly.
Well,
the SciNet team loves it. They're
yeah.
ecstatic to have the fiber being able to run it under the floor like that.
Yeah, no, that's neat. So yeah, the theme of SC21 is science and beyond. Share a little bit about why that theme was chosen and how it's reflected in the program.
Well, so so many of us that have been working in supercomputing for a long time at this point work in various scientific domains, or like our center is very much focused on scientific simulations, and so that when I think a lot of us, when we think about supercomputing, we think science, and over the last few years, more and more uses of supercomputing have been emerging. And so I really wanted to capture the broadening of what supercomputing is and what it's impacting. And so that's where the theme comes from, is the idea that it's across a much larger slice of our lives. It impacts everybody's lives, but not just because of the science, but also because of ways that it's enabling things like autonomous driving, right? So self-driving vehicles, like you see Tesla is building a supercomputer, right? Because that's how they're going to train their cars. But it goes even further than that. We've found a lot of instances where supercomputing is having an impact on the humanities. All right, so our keynote talk is going to feature somebody I think is very familiar to our community, Vince Cerf, but he's going to talk about how when you apply computing to things like Shakespearean plays, how that can actually reveal new and interesting analyses that weren't possible based on just like people reading the plays. Great works of art, and now we see that computing can bring an improved and new understanding of it. Things like that.
Mm-hmm. And that plenary will be moderated by Dan Reed. And
no,
it's
that's
also,
the keynote.
a different
talk.
plenary. I'm sorry.
It's a keynote talk on Tuesday morning. The plenary on science and computing and ethics is the one that's moderated by Dan Reed, and that's on Monday evening. So that's kind of the before the opening gala, I don't know, pre-event, kind of is how I think of it. And yeah, we're gonna have a tremendous panel there. I'm very excited about that. And that's also another aspect of how computing is really coming into our lives. It's an important topic to think about. How do we make sure that computing, particularly large-scale computing, reflects our has a sound ethical basis, but we're also hoping that they'll get into some discussions about how we can use computing to help make better ethical decisions, and maybe even to think about ways that you can have ethical AI, but you can also identify when it's not being ethical.
Great. And all the roles that HPC plays, of course, it's played a major role in addressing the pandemic. What projects have you both been involved in that you'd like to comment on? Jeff, we can move over to you and then jump back to you, Bronis.
Sure. So I will say my day job, while we haven't used a lot of HPC, we've definitely been using a lot of computing to help us with issues of compliance and tracking COVID on our campus, and being able to reopen the campus safely with face-to-face classes in full strength this fall. It's at the SC conference, we've got a number of things related to COVID. One is we'll have the second year of a special Gordon Bell Prize related to computation for COVID, and that's coming back after starting last year. And Bronis, I think there are a couple of other opportunities that speak to the role that HPC has had in COVID. Do you remember which ones those are? I know there's a couple of other things going on, a workshop and
yeah, I think there's a workshop, and then I think there's a couple papers that were just on that topic more generally. But the Gordon Bell special prize for HPC-based COVID-19 research is kind of the biggest thing. We don't know how many finalists there'll be yet. I've been in contact with Mark Parsons, who's the chair of the Gordon Bell Prize Committee this year. I was chair of the committee last year, so I actually was the one who worked with ACM and Gordon Bell to get that put in place. So we'll find out, I think, at the end of the week or early next week who the finalists are, and then we got to figure out what times exactly they're going to talk. We have a couple sessions reserved for them. There'll be up to 6 finalists. There were 4 finalists last year in that area. One of those teams was from Livermore. I had to recuse myself from any discussions of that paper, but since then I know a bunch of the people that have been working on it. So that's something I've been working on, is with them subsequently, looking at kind of the whole kind of drug discovery workflow, and they've focused, in addition to on COVID, they've also been doing a bunch of work looking at potential cancer drugs and things like that. And it's a really interesting kind of project, because it brings together large scale simulations with machine learning to help guide the search through the potential molecule spaces that they can use to design the, for those kind of computer designed treatments. Really fascinating. It's interesting because we run on a wide range of systems at Lawrence Livermore. We have more than just one big system, so they run on several systems, and in fact we've been developing tools and resource management mechanisms to be able to automatically partition the jobs across different systems. Like, okay, we need to go run this job, go run it over on that system now.
Yeah, and some of your systems have played a big role at the lab at Livermore in supporting COVID. They've been involved in some of those large projects to support COVID.
We're part of the COVID consortium. I personally have not been heavily involved in that, but we did get there was the CARES Act last year, so we had all pretty much the 6 largest DOE labs, I think, all got funding out of that, and we used it to we augmented a large Intel-based system that we were citing called Ruby. We greatly expanded an AMD-based system we have called Corona, which it was there before the pandemic, so people looked at us kind of funny, but it was named Corona to begin with. And so for that system, I mean, we about doubled that in size. It's now like about an 11 petaflop system. We haven't submitted a top 500 number on it because it's got like a range of different GPUs on it and stuff. And it wasn't why we bought it anyway. So.
Yeah. So how's the student cluster competition going this year? Is that a virtual event now?
So so as it's working out, most of the teams decided that they weren't going to want to come and be here in person, so it has gone virtual. There'll still be a student cluster competition booth in the exhibit floor, and you'll be able to interact with the students. We actually have added several new competitions that were intended to be fully virtual to begin with. And in fact, some of them will happen the week before the conference. The idea is we're in the long run, what we're trying to do is the original idea behind the cluster competition was to generate and support curriculums that are actually tied to large scale computing. And we have felt that it hasn't succeeded as quite as well as we would like in having the effect on curricula. And so we're looking at ways to kind of make it a more ongoing thing, and also available to a much broader set of universities, right? If you have 12 cluster, 12 teams at SC, and that's what they all come and do, then you're leaving out hundreds of universities across the world. And so we want to find a way to make it so that all the universities that are interested can participate.
Right. Yeah. What is the name of that? There's that the one that you're talking about. There's sort of a different
science challenge, and there's an IndyCar challenge, which is probably confusing. I find it confusing. I didn't name it.
That's the one I was thinking of. Yes. Yep.
Yeah, it's not like designing Indy cars, which is what I was like, oh, well, that would be cool. I mean, they do use the supercomputers for designing Indy cars with CFD, but it's just what the idea is that the systems that they're all using, it's all cloud-based, and the idea is that so that way all the teams have the same system, so it's not a competition that involves how do you assemble the system, but rather how do you use it. So that the idea is it's like kind of like, you know, stock, everybody on the same footing.
Everyone has the same computing platform, and it focuses on the software and the algorithms, so that it's not how well you did at getting hardware donated.
And so this is one of the ways you're supporting broader engagement and engagement of students. Students are a major part of SC. And what other ways are you engaging with students and supporting newcomers?
Well, we'll still have the student volunteer program has been a flagship program almost since the beginning of SC, and we will have student volunteers. Again, it will be both an on-site and a remote opportunity for students. But we've been pleased that we'll have quite a number of students on-site helping out with the on-site part of the conference. And I know that students are very eager to also travel again and get to see all that SC has to offer in the convention center. We also have student volunteers participating in SciNet, as we have for a number of years now, which is a sort of a specialized version of the student volunteer program.
And we're also trying to continue something that started several years ago, which is a real focus on improving how inclusive the conference is. And so we're generally working to broaden the community in that way. So we're treating, I mean, inclusivity is a much broader topic than just students. And we're recognizing that this year we have a number of events and activities around inclusivity, including what's essentially an invited talk that is being given by Chandra Daly from Duke University, and on so it's one that explores this current state of diversity and inclusion within computing. So she'll be talking about how to change the trajectory of inclusivity or lack of it in computing in general, and how to bring the benefits of having wider participation to our community.
And that is Chandra Daly from Duke, and that's going to be on Tuesday, November 16th at 12 noon local time. Great.
And actually, I do remember that we have another invited talk by, well, so it's going to be an interesting invited talk. So it's Valerie Taylor from Argonne is the invited speaker, but she actually decided that she was more comfortable having it be a talk also on inclusivity topics with some other speakers. So it's almost it's going to be a conversation is how I envision it. They'll kind of talk back and chat back and forth on the topic too. So we're really working to bring this topic more into the mainstream. There's actually also a paper this year that's exploring diversity in supercomputing.
Okay. All right. What are you both most looking forward to? Or a couple of the things you're looking forward to?
I will say first and foremost, it's getting together in good numbers together with colleagues from around the country and around the world again at a face-to-face SC. And the sheer excitement I felt in August when we went to our first planning meeting, which was my first business travel during the pandemic, and how great it was to see people in person and those side conversations about new research ideas and new projects, new technology, and getting to do all that in person. I'm really looking forward to. I'm looking forward to meeting with some exhibitors that I'm interested in talking to about work for my day job, and of course meeting with colleagues I haven't seen. And I've taken a look at the technical program, and there's some really exciting papers I'm looking forward to seeing, finding some time to actually sit down and hear technical papers.
What about you, Bronis?
God, I'm really looking forward to the keynote. I'm looking forward to some of the plenary talks. I guess I've learned that vice chair must be like the best job, because nobody expects you to be anywhere during the week. Whereas most of my schedule is like, go here, up, nope, stop, go over there instead. Now go over there. So I'm looking forward to getting a lot of steps in.
And for those going to St. Louis, there's also a national park right there, which is the Gateway Arch National Park.
There is, and I encourage everyone to go up in the Arch if you have never done it before. We looked at the possibility of having SC-related events there, and because of the capacity of going up the Arch, it just was not practical to have a big event there. But if everyone just goes in small numbers throughout the week, everyone who's visiting can get a chance to see St. Louis from the top of the Arch.
Very good. And what's the plan for next year? Is it to be back in Dallas for SC22?
That's correct. We'll be back in Dallas.
All right.
Yep, and we'll have the traditional next year's preview. So the SC22 preview will be on Thursday morning. And the SC22 committee is already actively working at planning out how things will look in 22. So.
And there'll also be, as always, an SC22 booth will be in the convention center with both SC volunteers as well as volunteers from the Convention and Visitors Bureau in Dallas are coming up to tell people about Dallas and our trip back in 22.
Great. Well, thank you. Thanks so much for joining me here today. It was really nice talking with both of you.
Thanks.